I have always believed that life is a delicate balancing act between holding on to our pride and embracing the warmth of family ties. In my journey, I admired my father as more than just a parent. He was my hero, a constant source of strength, wisdom, and love. Growing up under his guidance, I learned that our family was our foundation, the pillar that held everything together. Yet, the harsh twists of fate sometimes force us to question everything we once held dear. This video takes you through the raw complexities of my emotions as I faced a painful, yet eye-opening, family dispute. The story unfolds with the unexpected reveal of my father's final wishes, which left me feeling both hurt and conflicted. With each memory of our shared past and every heartbeat echoing his unconditional love, I stand at a crossroads of anger and understanding. The journey we'll explore today is not just about money or legacy. It's about the deep-seated emotions that come with being part of a family. As we peel back each layer of the events that transpired, prepare to see how even the strongest pride can crumble in light of familial devotion. Throughout my childhood, my father was the guiding beacon in our lives. He fostered an environment where every lesson was imparted with love, wisdom, and the unspoken promise of always being there. I was the practical one, a successful software engineer with a steady career and a nurturing family, while my sister Jane pursued her passion as an artist, often struggling to make ends meet. The contrast in our lives was visible to anyone who looked closely. My father, however, had a unique way of providing support to both of us. He celebrated my achievements quietly, confident in my ability to succeed on my own. Yet he extended his hand generously to Jane during her toughest times. I remember the warm afternoons when he would sit down with Jane, offering guidance and unconditional financial help, while I focused on building my future relentlessly. This dynamic, although seemingly balanced, planted an unseen seed of tension between us. The unspoken truth was that my father's love, while equal, was expressed in different ways. His efforts to shield Jane in her vulnerable moments were never meant to diminish my accomplishments. As I grew older, I learned to appreciate these differences. But, with time, I also began to wonder if those differences signaled a subtle preferential treatment that I was too proud to acknowledge openly. In retrospect, his ways were simply an expression of nuanced care rather than judgment, yet I was unable to grasp it all in the moment. The day our father's will was read remains seared in my memory, a moment filled with an overwhelming mix of grief, disbelief, and, unexpectedly, humiliation. Surrounded by family and friends in a dimly lit room, I sat among a crowd that silently bore witness to the final testament of the man I cherished so dearly. The atmosphere was heavy, a blend of somber mourning and anxious anticipation. Then came the shocking reveal. Out of our father's entire $300,000 estate, I was left with a single dollar. That symbolic gesture, small yet deeply significant, struck me like a physical blow. I felt as though my entire identity, built on achievements and hard work, was being reduced to a joke. The room seemed to shrink around me as my eyes fell on Jane, who sat there with tears streaming down her face, her sorrow mixing with her own confusion. In that charged moment, the symbolism of that lone dollar cut deeper than any monetary value could ever do. It was not just an inheritance. It was a message, one I interpreted as a public slight, a loud declaration that I was somehow unworthy of my father's full support. The sting of that realization would go on to color my emotions for weeks to come, setting off a chain reaction of anger and betrayal that I never anticipated. In the immediate aftermath of that shocking revelation, anger and hurt surged through every fiber of my being. I stormed out of the room with an overwhelming desire to protect my pride, each step away from that painful scene echoing with my inner turmoil. The image of Jane, with her tear-streaked face and whispered apologies, fueled my belief that she had manipulated our father in his final moments. I locked myself away in a fortress of self-righteous indignation and bitterness, determined never to allow myself to be vulnerable again. Every memory of that day remained laser-focused in my mind, a constant reminder of the betrayal I perceived not only from my father's decision but from the sister I once counted on. The painful reality was that my pride and my need for validation had led me to cut off someone I loved dearly. The fallout wasn't confined to a single moment. It reverberated through every subsequent day, deepening the rift in our family bond. I refused to see the possibility that there might be more to our father's decision than mere favoritism. Instead, I harbored thoughts of manipulation and deception, further isolating myself in a downward spiral of anger and loneliness that felt as if it would never end. Then, as if fate had orchestrated one final twist, the truth began to emerge in a way I could have never expected. One evening, when the weight of isolation and regret felt almost unbearable, Jane appeared at my doorstep. With trembling hands and eyes full of sorrow, she handed me an envelope, a letter penned by our father before his passing. The moment I held that letter, time seemed to slow, and every word that followed carried the profound weight of years filled with both joy and hidden sacrifices. In that letter, our father explained his decision with a clarity that I had never experienced before. He spoke of the vast ocean of wealth he possessed and how giving me money would have been like adding a cup of water to the ocean, a gesture that would have been insignificant given my established foundation. In contrast, he saw Jane's struggles as a parched land in desperate need of nourishment. I began to understand that his choice was never about favoritism or mockery. Instead, it was born from a deep-seated concern for Jane's future, a practical decision camouflaged in love and care. Each carefully chosen word in his letter painted a picture of a man who loved both of us so deeply that he was compelled to tailor his final act to our individual needs. Yet, the revelation did nothing to dissipate the sting of that symbolic dollar. Instead, it forced me to confront the complexity of love, responsibility, and sacrifice. As I read the final line, "I hope one day you'll understand I did this because I love you both," I felt a surge of conflicting emotions. Remorse for my earlier harsh judgment, gratitude for his foresight, and a lingering sadness for the hurt that had already been done. Stepping back from the raw emotional turbulence, I began to analyze the situation with a more rational lens, discovering what psychologists refer to as compensatory favoritism. This phenomenon occurs when a parent, perceiving one child as independent and strong, unconsciously directs more of their supportive efforts toward another child who appears more vulnerable. In my case, my father recognized that I was building a secure future on my own, while Jane faced an uncertain path fraught with financial instability. Far from a statement of diminished love for me, his actions were an effort to cushion the hardships that lay ahead for Jane. Interestingly, I recalled a study from 2022 by the Legal Services Board, which highlighted that over two-thirds of inheritance disputes stem from deeper emotional issues such as unresolved perceptions of value, recognition, and unequal support. Through this lens, it became clear that my father's final wish was not a ploy to hurt but a complex, heartfelt decision motivated by his genuine concern for our diverging needs. Now, as I sit with the echoes of these revelations still resonating within me, I am compelled to reflect on the intricate dance between pride and love in our family. The journey from feeling utterly betrayed to slowly embracing the truth was fraught with internal conflict and moments of painful self-realization. I began to acknowledge that my initial judgment of Jane was not an attack on her character but rather a cry of wounded pride, a misguided attempt to shield myself from the deep-seated pain of feeling reduced to a symbolic figure by my father's decision. With time, I have come to see the tender care behind our father's choice. My once blinding anger has been replaced by a quiet understanding that our father, like all of us, was imperfect. His love took on forms that, though hard to decipher at first, were rooted in practicality and genuine care. I now realize that inheritance is not merely about wealth or material legacy. It is a mirror reflecting our vulnerabilities, our hopes, and the sacrifices our loved ones are willing to make on our behalf. As I continue to grapple with these feelings, I invite you to join me in exploring the deeper meanings behind family decisions. Let us discuss, reflect, and share our own experiences, for in our collective stories, we find compassion and the courage to mend the fractures left by pride. Together, may we learn that sometimes, understanding is the first step toward healing, even if it means rediscovering the ties that bind us in unexpected ways.